Egypt Story Part 4: The Rise of the Middle Kingdom, Reunification and Stability. Imagine a country that once ruled like a god, now split in half. Regions fighting, people starving, temples abandoned, kings replaced by warlords. This was Egypt after the First Intermediate Period. But here's the thing. Great civilizations don't disappear. They wait. Somewhere, someone rises with a vision big enough to pull a broken nation back together. And that someone came from Thebes. His name was Mentuhotep II, and his victory would mark the beginning of one of Egypt's most remarkable eras, the Middle Kingdom. When the Old Kingdom fell, Egypt didn't just lose its rulers, it lost its identity. Local governors, nomarchs, became miniature kings in their districts. They built their own armies. They rewrote local rules. Some taxed the poor to death. Others pretended they were pharaohs. Nile floods became unpredictable. Crops failed. People wrote poems saying things like, "Brothers fight brothers. The river has turned to blood. The land belongs to chaos." Egypt needed unity. Egypt needed one voice. And that voice came from a rising southern city, Thebes. Around 2050 BCE, Thebes had a ruler who refused to accept Egypt's fragmentation. Mentuhotep II didn't want to be a regional king. He wanted to reunite the two lands, Upper and Lower Egypt, just as Narmer did centuries earlier. His message was simple: Egypt is one, and I will make it whole again. But saying that and doing it were two different things. Heracleopolis, the powerful city controlling northern Egypt, had its own kings and its own ambitions. They weren't about to hand over power peacefully. And so began a war that would reshape Egypt. For nearly 30 years, Egypt was locked in a long, grinding conflict between Thebes and Heracleopolis. Villages switched sides. Nomarchs negotiated behind closed doors. Armies fought not just to win territory, but to control food, trade routes, and loyalty. Mentuhotep II pushed slowly but relentlessly northward. And after decades of battles, small victories, and crushing losses, he did it. He defeated Heracleopolis. Egypt was reunited under one ruler again. The Middle Kingdom was officially born. This moment is often compared to the U.S. after the Civil War, painful, costly, and transformative. Unity didn't magically fix everything, but it gave Egypt a chance to heal. Once the fighting stopped, Mentuhotep II focused on one thing: stability. He reorganized the army. He restructured the administration. He placed trusted officials in key regions. He limited the power of nomarchs, who once acted like mini-kings. He understood something critical. If you want peace to last, you must build systems that prevent chaos from returning. His greatest architectural statement was his mortuary complex at Deir el-Bahri, built against the dramatic cliffs of western Thebes. If the name sounds familiar, it's because centuries later, Hatshepsut would build her iconic temple in the same spot, inspired by his design. Mentuhotep II wasn't just restoring Egypt, he was redefining it. His successors tried to maintain his reforms, but they lacked his strength and vision. Egypt didn't collapse again, but it stumbled. Power tugged in different directions. Some governors regained influence. Local disputes flared up. Egypt needed another strong leader, someone who could take Mentuhotep's foundation and build a new era on top of it. And that leader arrived with the start of the 12th Dynasty. Amenemhat I wasn't born into royalty. He rose through the ranks, proving himself through skill, loyalty, and political brilliance. When he became pharaoh, he didn't just want to rule, he wanted to redesign Egypt from the ground up. His biggest move: he relocated the capital from Thebes to a brand new city, It-Jitawi, strategically placed between Upper and Lower Egypt. This wasn't just geography, it was psychology. A new capital meant a new era, a fresh start, and a centralized government that could control the entire country more effectively. He introduced a breakthrough idea: co-regency, a system where the pharaoh appointed his successor while still alive. This one idea prevented future coups, succession crises, and civil wars. It gave Egypt stability that would last for centuries. The U.S. has peaceful transitions of power today. Ancient Egypt invented its own version 4,000 years ago. Despite the stability he was building, his rule ended violently. Amenemhat I was assassinated inside his own palace during a conspiracy. But his reforms worked exactly as designed. He had already established his son, Senusret I, as co-ruler. So instead of chaos, Egypt transitioned smoothly. The system he built saved the nation he built. Senusret I was a strong leader, ambitious, military-minded, and obsessed with order. His achievements included major expansion in Nubia, new mining operations, improved quarries, strengthened borders, new temples and religious structures across Egypt. His most famous masterpiece was the White Chapel at Karnak, a stunning structure with some of the finest relief carvings in Egyptian history. Even today, historians stand in front of that chapel and wonder how craftsmen achieved such precision with simple tools. Senusret I made sure Egypt wasn't just unified, it was prosperous. Here's what makes the Middle Kingdom fascinating. While kings were building temples and fighting wars, writers were inventing Egypt's greatest literature. The most iconic work, the Tale of Sinuhe. It follows a court official who flees Egypt in panic, builds a life abroad, becomes a warrior, grows old with regret, and eventually returns home seeking forgiveness. It's emotional, introspective, deeply human. The story resonates with modern audiences, especially in the U.S., because it explores identity, exile, fear, and the longing to return home. Egypt wasn't just power, it was poetry. After Senusret I, Egypt kept producing capable rulers, something rare in ancient history. Amenemhat II strengthened international trade, stabilized the economy, monitored officials carefully, and ensured Egypt stayed wealthy. Senusret II focused on engineering instead of war. His masterpiece was the Fayum irrigation project, which transformed a semi-desert region into a fertile agricultural powerhouse. He widened canals, redirected water, and created systems that farmers would use for generations. This pharaoh didn't just rule Egypt, he fed Egypt. Senusret III was the superstar of the 12th Dynasty. Brutal, sharp, relentless, a born military commander. He launched campaigns deep into Nubia. He built massive fortresses, Semna, Uranti, Buhen, turning the southern border into a wall of stone. He reorganized the administration, cut down the power of unruly nomarchs, and molded Egypt into a tightly controlled machine. Some historians believe he was the legendary king Hyksos, mentioned by Greek writers centuries later. Senusret III wasn't just a ruler, he was a myth in the making. Old Kingdom art showed perfect kings, smooth faces, ideal bodies, eternal youth. Middle Kingdom art said no. show reality. Statues of pharaohs appear with tired eyes, with wrinkles, with tension across the jaw, with expressions of burden. These sculptures show rulers who felt the weight of leadership. They weren't gods in stone. They were humans carrying the responsibility of millions. Spiritually, something else changed. Egyptians began believing that the afterlife wasn't just for kings. Common people could earn eternity too. This shift transformed religious culture for the rest of Egyptian history. By the late Middle Kingdom, Egypt was secure, wealthy, and organized, but power always has blind spots. The one weakness was in the north, the Delta region. Its open borders made it vulnerable.